Okay, let us start. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the parallel session at the International Conference on Advancement in Data Science, E-Learning, and Information System, or ICADES 2025. Let me introduce myself. My name is Liza, and I'm honored to serve as the moderator for this session. Today, we have a series of remarkable presentations that will explore data science for health. Before we begin, allow me to outline the format for this session. Each presenter will have 10 minutes to deliver their presentation. Each presenter has a maximum of 10 minutes to present. At the 8 minutes, there will be a reminder that there are 2 minutes left. At the 10 minutes, I will state that time is up, followed by a 5 minutes of question and answer segment. For online session, a maximum of 15 minutes for presenter for Q&A session, but can extend up to 20 minutes if needed. I kindly ask all attendees to hold their question until the Q&A session after each presentation. If a presenter is not ready to present within 1 minute of their scheduled time, we will proceed with the next presenter. The presenter who has not ready will be rescheduled to present at the end of the session and after all other presenters have finished. During other presenter session, please mute your microphone unless permitted to speak. Okay, before we start, I'd like to remind all presenter to change your display name into your paper ID followed by your full name if not yet. For example, paper ID, oh, I see it's already set. And we remind you to please make sure to use virtual background for this session. It will help us for maintain a consistent and professional appearance throughout the event. We will document first, yeah. Okay. Before we start the presentation session, we will do documentation first. Please turn on your camera first. Okay. We will take the picture, ya, Kirana. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay. One more time. Yeah. One more time. Okay. Thank you all. Okay. Now we move to the presentation session. Now, let us welcome our first presenter. Who is this? Brand Tumor Yulu, ya. Okay. Mr. Who is the first presenter?
Minis.
Okay. Mr. Muhammad Fikri Wahidin. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now we will start to the presentation session. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Mr. Muhammad Fikri Wahidin. Okay, you have 10 minutes. Place and time are welcome. Okay, let's start.
Can I use the video presentation?
Sure, you can.
Do I need to share my screen for the video?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
you can share your screen.
Hello everyone, my name is Muhammad Fikri Wahidin from Telkom University. Today I'm honored to present my research titled Brain Tumor Detection Using Your Models in MRI Images. This study aims to develop an efficient and accurate model for brain tumor detection. And let's begin. This presentation is structured into 4 main sections: introduction, method, experiment and discussion, and conclusion. Let's start with the background of the study. Brain and central nervous system tumors are the most prevalent solid tumors and the leading cause of cancer-related deaths in children and adolescents as of December 2019. Over 1.3 million individuals in the US were living with brain and CNS tumors. The concerning prevalence highlights the urgent need for efficient diagnostic and management procedures, especially in facilitating early and precise detection. Advances in medical imaging technology have made MRI or magnetic resonance imaging the primary method for diagnosing and evaluating brain cancer. Early detection using MRI is critical as it provides detailed information on the tumor's location, size, and type. However, manual interpretation of MRI by radiologists is time-intensive and resource-heavy. Computer vision techniques like object detection models offer a promising solution by automating and enhancing the accuracy of tumor detection, such as YOLO. YOLO, or You Only Look Once, is a powerful object detection model. Previous studies, such as by Mercaldo Francesco et al., demonstrated that YOLO V8 significantly improves brain tumor localization, achieving a high MAP score of 0.941, and the latest generation of YOLO, which is YOLO 11, provides an even higher accuracy with fewer computational resource compared to YOLO V8. And in this study, we aim to develop a brain tumor detection model on MRI images with 3 types of brain tumor, which is meningioma, glioma, and pituitary tumor, using newer generation of YOLO models. And the results of this study are expected to help improve the efficiency and accuracy of brain tumor diagnosis. And let's now discuss our method. And this flowchart shows the overall design of the system for this research. It outlines the major steps involved, from dataset preprocessing, model tuning, and model training, and model evaluation of the YOLO model. The dataset utilized in this study comprises 3,064 pairs of T1 weighted contrast enhanced brain tumor images sourced from 233 patients with 3 kinds of brain tumor. And the dataset was organized in MATLAB data format, which is .mat file. In order to move on to the next step, these files are extracted into PNG images of MRI images, binary mesh images, and a metadata file. And preprocessing involves converting binary mesh into bounding box coordinates to make the data compatible with YOLO model. The dataset was then uploaded to RoboFlow for further preprocessing and split into train, valid, and test sets. For the models, we focus on the M-series models from the latest version of YOLO, such as YOLO 11M, YOLO V10M, YOLO V9M, and YOLO V89M. And for YOLO 11, which are the most recent version of YOLO, enhance efficiency and speed with refined architectural designs and optimized training pipelines. And it also accomplishes enhanced feature extraction capabilities for more accurate object detection and complex job detection. YOLO 11 stands out because its enhanced architectural designs. It reduced the parameter count by 22% compared to YOLO V8, while maintaining superior performance on standard datasets such as COCO. To optimize the YOLO models, we use RayTune and the BOHB algorithm. This process explored 16 hyperparameter combination with underperforming trials terminated early, and the best configuration was used to train the models for 100 epochs. For the model evaluation, we focus on 2 key metrics, which is MAP, or mean average precision, with an intersection of over union threshold of 0.5, and also frames per second, or FPS. Moving to experiment and discussion, the hyperparameter tuning process aims to optimize the YOLO models using the Bayesian optimization and hyperband or BOHB search algorithm with Raytun. And over 16 trial, the best hyperparameter combination were selected based on the MAP50 matrix for all classes. And here are the best hyperparameters for each model. And you can see across all models, the stochastic gradient descent or SGD optimizer consistently outperform others such as Adam and Adam W optimizer. This aligns with the common practice in object detection task where SGD is known for its better generalization and convergence stability. And next, moving on into the performance evaluation. We evaluated the performance of 4 models after the model's training, and the results shown in this table. You can see that YOLO 11M achieved the highest detection accuracy of all classes with an MAP 50 of 0.934 while maintaining a high inference speeds of 70 FPS. And you can also see that YOLO V10M also provided competitive accuracy with the lowest parameter count at 16.4 million. And also, the YOLO V9 also has good good performance and in matter of MAP 50 and FPS. And for the YOLO V8M had the fastest inference speed at 80 FPS. This is ideal for real-time application, but YOLO V8 required more computational resources with its 25 million parameters. And breaking down performance by tumor type for glioma class detection, you can see that in all models, it has low MAP score in all model, and with YOLO 11M achieve the highest score, which is 0.880 for this tumor type. This tumor type is often challenging due to its ambiguous boundaries. Next is the detection samples. As you can see in the left images are the successful detection samples with bounding boxes aligned closely with the ground truth annotation, which is the green line, for tumors with clear boundaries and high contrast features. And these samples reflects the model effectiveness when tumor features are distinguishable from surrounding tissues. And on the right side is the failed detection samples. It shows challenging scenarios with false negative occurred in image with low contrast or complex anatomical structures, such as tumor near the sella turcica, and false positive arose from non-tumorous region with unusual texture or imaging artifacts being misclassified as tumors. And this analysis underscores areas for improvement, especially in detecting subtle or low contrast tumor features. On the same dataset, your models outperforms the faster RCNN algorithm conducted by other researchers, which only has an MAP of 0.776, and YOLO's advantage in terms of detection accuracy, inference speed, and efficiency make it an excellent computer vision model option for brain tumor detection. However, YOLO also has some shortcomings, and one of them is the difficulty in detecting objects with small size or those with low contrast against the background, such as the glioma tumors, which often have ambiguous boundaries. And in conclusion, YOLO 11M has proven to be a promising tool for automated brain tumor detection, offering a superior balance of accuracy and efficiency. And for future research, integration of multimodal imaging such as CT and PET scans, and also exploring advanced data augmentation techniques to further improve the performance of the model. And that's all. And these are the reference. And thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fikri, for the presentation. We will now open for the question session. If you have a question, please use the raise hand feature in Zoom. Kindly state your name and affiliation before asking your question. Okay. There is no question for other participants, so I will ask you a question, Mr. Fikri.
Okay.
Okay. In your opinion, what were the primary cause of false negative and false positive in the detection of brain tumors?
Okay, for the false negative, I think uh I think it's hard hard and low contrast boundaries between the brain images, and for the false positive tumor, it may be arises from unusual image 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 what's it called image texture or image artifacts, and yeah, I think that's the answer.
Okay, thank you for your answer. There is other question from other participant? No? Okay, if there is no question, we will move to the next presenter. Thank you, Mr. Muhammad Fikri, for the presentation and the answer for my questions.
Thank you, Miss Liza, and other participant for listening.
Okay. Let us now proceed to our next presenter. Please welcome Mr. Evan Kusuma, who will present a paper with title Progressively Train Deeply Supervised Network for Brain Tumor Segmentation. Right? Okay, a warm round of applause for Mr. Evan. You have 10 minutes. Place and time are welcome.
Okay, thank you for the chance, Miss Lisa. Wait, please, I'm trying to share my screen. Is my screen visible now?
No, it's not yet. Wait. Okay.
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 Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Evan Susanto, and today I will be presenting our work on a progressive training strategy for brain tumor segmentation using deep learning. This research was conducted in the Institute of Technology School November in collaboration with my co-authors, Professor Handayani Chandrasa and Professor Kastin Fatika. So, the background of this research is glioblastoma, highly aggressive brain cancer, poses significant diagnostic and treatment challenges. Magnetic resonance imaging, or MRI, is a standard method for tumor detection, traditionally requiring manual annotation by radiologists. Recent advancements in deep learning have enabled automated segmentation and classification of the brain tumors, improving efficiency and accuracy. However, deep learning models often demand substantial computational resources, limiting accessibility and slowing iteration cycles. So, sorry. Okay, previously, yeah. Deep learning researchers previously has faced challenges to the large size of neural networks model, which requires significant computational resources. Previous research has focused on creating lightweight models such as MobileNet or EnvisionNet, or leveraging pre-trained models to minimize training costs. Another method is knowledge distillation that can also be used to transfer learning from larger networks to a smaller network. And then other methods such as advanced segmentations like ERU3 DFPN or LaTuPNet have demonstrated significant performance improvements. In this research, we propose an alternative approach. Instead of trying to make the another architecture, we decompose a large network into small segments and training them sequentially. Instead of training the entire network simultaneously, we train each segment incrementally from the initial to the final layers. As only parts of the network are trained at a time, the memory usage are significantly reduced, enabling the training of large network in GPUs with limited capacity, while still maintaining competitive segmentation performance. In this research, we use an architecture with a ConvNext encoder and a unitary plus decoder with deep supervision to optimize segmentation outcomes. The network is trained progressively, starting from the initial encoder layer to the from the initial layer, then to the next layer, until the final layer. So in this image, we can see that the layers colored in orange is the train part, and then in the next step, we freeze the first layer and then train the second layer, next layer. After this iteration, we freeze the train layer and then add another layer to and train the new layer. We repeat the steps until all of the layers are trained. For this research, we use the BREDS 2021 dataset, which comprised 1,251 MRI scans, including glioblastoma cases. Each scan is a volumetric image with a dimension of 240 times 240 times 155 voxels, which includes 4 imaging modalities: T1, T1 contrast enhanced, T2, and T2 flare, each offering complementary diagnostic insights. Preprocessing steps include cropping, normalization, and applying augmentation techniques such as random clipping, channel dropout, and grid distortion. This is the full network architecture. The architecture includes 3 components: the encoder, decoder, and supervision layer. The encoder, decoder, and then the supervision layer. The encoder using ConvNext ensures robust feature extraction, while the unitary plus decoder facilitates efficient segmentation using deep supervision. The network was trained using Adam optimizer and dice loss function, and the network output matches the label size and produce image of 192 times 160 pixels. The network is trained in 30 epoch with the batch size of 64, and the output consists of binary image representing the enhancing tumor, tumor core, and the whole tumor. Next. So this is the result of our experiment. The GPU usage, the parameter count, and the training time for each training set is shown in the table, including direct end-to-end training as a baseline. Results, you can see that from the result that the GPU usage is reduced significantly. It's reduced by 40%. But because we trained the model progressively, not in one go, the trade-off is the time required becomes longer because it has 5 training stages, 5 training iterations. The dice-score comparison between the 2 methods are provided in this table. The evaluation for the final dice-score of the progression trained network are comparable. So we can see here if we train the network fully from start to finish, the full network, the dice-scores hovers around 83, 88, and then 90 for the enhancing tumor core, and the whole tumor. But if we train the model progressively, step by step, we can see that the dice-score is almost the same as the full network. So this way we can train the network with with GPU that has lower capacity without sacrificing too much of the performance, the dice-score performance of the network. And here are the segmentation results at the training stage. The green areas visual in the image is the model's prediction that match the ground truth, or we usually call true positives. The red areas indicate the areas that the model predicted that were not found in the ground truth, or we usually say false positive. And the blue areas are the area of the ground truth that the model failed to identify, which usually we call false negative. We can see that for the smaller model, the first iteration usually the performance is not very good, but each iteration, we can see that the prediction, the predicted area from the model starts to closely resemble the final ground truth of the image, and the final result of the image, the final result of the model, which has been trained for fully, is represented here in the rightmost image. We also compare the performance of our proposed method with the other brain tumor segmentation model. We can see that even though it's not the most perfect, but the performance is also comparable with the other models. Our experiments show that the progressively trained model achieves dice scores comparable to those of fully trained networks, maintaining cumulative segmentation quality. One major advantage is the significant reduction in the GPU memory required to train the model, making the method practical for resource-constrained environments. This approach also allows for incremental training and evaluation, preventing unnecessary development of overly large networks. If the early-stage results meet the required performance, training can be stopped, which can save time and resource. Conversely, additional stages can also be used to be trained if needed. However, challenges still remain, particularly in the segmenting small regions, such as enhancing tumor. This is due to the architectural constraint where the early supervision layer processes smaller feature maps. These maps, when dilated, struggle to effectively segment smaller objects. To combat this, we can do some modification to the training stages or or we can try to design alternative architecture that can handle these corner cases. So, in conclusion, the study introduced a novel progressive training strategy for brain tumor segmentation using MRI data, employing a convex encoder and U-Net3 plus decoder architecture. The proposed method effectively reduced required GPU memory uses by up to 40% compared to the conventional end-to-end training, making it viable alternative for environments with limited computational resources. Despite the state's training approach, the model achieved comparable dice scores to fully trained networks, demonstrating its capacity for high-quality segmentation across 3 tumor subregions. Furthermore, this approach offers flexibility for researchers, enabling early-stage evaluation and potentially reducing training costs by avoiding overtraining on large networks when early results are satisfactory. In the future, we plan to explore refinement to the progressive training strategy to address the limitations, such as the long-range training times. For example, we can use maybe adaptive methods that can dynamically determine the optimal number of training stages, or we can also try another network architecture or feature processing strategy that can improve the segmentation of small tumor regions. In addition, incorporating advanced data augmentation or synthetic data generation technique can enhance modular robustness. And finally, we can try to deploy the proposed method in real-world clinical workflows to gain valuable insights into practical usability of this method.
Okay, Misut.
Yeah, thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Evan, for the presentation. We will now open the floor for questions. If you have a question, please use the raise hand feature in Zoom. Kindly state your name and affiliation before asking your question. Okay, we will wait a minute. Okay, I will give you a question, Mr. Evan. What are the specific limitations of the current progressive training strategy, and how could adaptive method help to address this issue?
Okay, so currently meeting for a second.
Yes.
So currently we design the model first. So the base model is we can see in this slide that the base model consists of 5 layers for the for encoder layer and for decoder layers. So we can, for the adaptive method, we can adapt the size of the model because in this experiment, we train the model fully. So we train everything. However, maybe in several cases where the object size is simpler and larger, maybe there's a possibility that we don't need everything. So we can maybe just use the smaller model. So because of that, maybe if we use the adaptive method, we can adapt the number of layers that we need to train, and that can reduce significantly the time that is required to train the entire model, because we have to train it separately and step by step. Maybe that's it.
Okay.
Is it clear enough?
Thank
Okay.
you for your answer.
Okay.
There's another question for other participant. Okay, if there is no other question, thank you, Mr. Evan, for your presentation and your answer for my questions. Okay, we
Thank you,
will
everybody.
move to next presenter. But before we move to next presenter, we remind all presenters to turn on the camera during this session. So please, for all presenters, to still turn on your camera even your presentation session has ended. Okay, now we move to next presentation. We will welcome Ms. Jennifer Ardelia that will present a paper with title Comparative Model Evaluation of Light-Weak Transformer-Based and CNN-Based Architecture for Degenerative Lumbar Spine Classification. Ms. Jennifer Ardelia, time is yours.
I'm sorry, I will be presenting instead of Jennifer.
Oh gitu, okay. It's okay. So, Mr. Wilbert, time is yours.
I will present using the video. Is the share screen can be seen?
Yes. You can start, Mr. Wilbert. You still mute your microphone, I think. Oh,
okay.
You use the recording, yeah? Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I think the sound is not can hear from here.
Oh, wait. Oh, share computer. Okay. Okay.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. In this session, we would like to tell you about our research titled Comparative Model Evaluation of Lightweight Transformer-Based and CNN-Based Architecture for Degenerative Lumbar Spine Classification. Next. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Jennifer Ardelia Limisia, and he is my colleague, Wilbert Chandra. We're both undergraduate students for Bina Nusantara University. We would also like to thank our supervisor, Mr. Alexander Agung Santoso Gunawan and Mr. Jeffrey Junior Tejasulaksana for their guidance and support throughout the research process. Next. Let me then present the introduction. Next. The background of this study is for low back pain is a leading cause of global disability, especially in aging populations. Mechanical lumbar spine disorders, including degenerative disc issues and spinal stenosis, account for up to 97% of the diagnosis. Despite being the preferred diagnostic tool, challenges remain in MRI interpretation for its subjectivity and lack of definitive diagnosis in 85% of cases. Thus, we seek to evaluate and compare the performance of CNN-based and transformer-based models. The CNN-based models include VGG, Efficienat, and Efficienat V2. On the other hand, the transformer-based model used is lightweight transformer model, Vision transformers with base. The models are compared for classifying degenerative lumbar spine condition as normal, moderate, or severe, while offering insights into the strengths and limitations of CNNs and transformers to guide the development of effective diagnostic tool. Next. Next, literature review. Next. Degenerative lumbar spine disease itself encompasses conditions such as spondylolisthesis, disc degeneration, and lumbar spinal stenosis. Its symptoms often include lower back pain, weakness, and lower extremity pain. Degeneration progresses through 3 distinct stages, which are Stage A, dehydration of the nucleus pulposus leads to cracks and fissures in the annulus fibrosus, which will diminish spinal stability. Stage B, the damage will escalate with disc bulging or herniation accompanied by end plate and bone marrow changes, causing intervertebral instability. Stage C, severe structural alteration in facetoid and ligamentum flavum result in spinal canal stenosis, potentially compressing nerves and impairing mobility. Next. Material and methodology. First, the dataset we use in this study is sourced from Kegel, titled ARSNA 2024 Lumbar Spine Degenerative Classification. It is curated by ARSNA and ASNR. It contains 48,617 data with 512 times 412 pixel MRI scans, labeled with severity levels, which are normal, moderate, and severe, for 5 conditions, which are spinal canal stenosis, left and right subarticularis stenosis, and then left and right neuroforaminal narrowing. The data is imbalanced, with the severe class being underrepresented and the normal class being the majority.
Preprocessing. The dataset preprocessing involves 4 steps. First, image preprocessing, which includes resizing the images to 100 by 128 by 128 pixels, converting them to grayscale with 3 channels, transforming them into tensors, and normalizing the images. Second, windowing, which crops approximately 10% of the image based on the dataset annotation to focus on the area of interest. Third, the target label is encoded, and finally, the dataset is split into an 8:2 ratio for training and validation. Next. Modeling and evaluations. All models are subjected to class weighting to ensure accurate loss calculations for imbalanced classes. The models are divided into CNN-based and transformer-based architectures. The CNN models include VGG16, EfficientNet V0, EfficientNet V2S, while the transformer-based model is FIT. All models are pre-trained on the ImageNet dataset, and the CNN-based model are unfrozen at layers 15, 23, and 34 respectively. The evaluation metrics used are ROC-AOC and PR-AOC, with cost entropy loss as the loss functions. Next, results and discussions. From the plot on the model convergency, EfficientNet V0 and V2 show smooth and consistent decreases in both training and validation loss, indicating strong convergence and stability. In contrast, VGG16 and FIT exhibit higher variability in validation loss, with notable spikes suggesting overfitting. Overall, EfficientNet V0 and V2 demonstrate superior reliability in handling the dataset's complexity. Next. The evaluation shows that EfficientNet V0 and V2 have more of an edge over VGG16 and FIT, with EfficientNet V0 and V2 generally having similar performance of average ROC-AOC of 0.784, with EfficientNet V0 having a slight edge on PR-AOC of 0.528 compared to 0.522 on the EfficientNet V2. With the same result on the inference test as well. Next. This is the inference test. Next. In conclusions. In conclusions, the study provides a comparative evaluations between lightweight CNN and FIT architectures for classification of degenerative lumbar spine conditions using MRI data, with the most performant model being the EfficientNet V0 and EfficientNet V2 across most tasks. The smaller size of EfficientNet V0 also made it the most efficient model while still gaining positive metrics. Next. Future research should focus on using more datasets and explore other model approaches, such as fine-tuning and using MRI image pre-trained model. Next. Thank you so much for your time and attention. If you have any questions or would like to discuss further, please feel free to reach out.
Okay, Mr. Wilbert, it's already done.
Yeah.
Okay, we move to Q&A session. If there is question for Mr. Wilbert, kindly use the raise hand and state your name and affiliation before asking your questions. Okay, Mr. Wilbert, I will give you questions. In your opinion, what potential improvement in model accuracy and generalization could emerge from overcoming the current limitation that you state in your study?
Can you repeat that again? I didn't quite get it.
Okay. What is the potential improvements in model accuracy and generalization could emerge from overcoming the current limitation that highlight in your studies?
For the improvement in accuracy and accuracy of the model, the main problem of the model is the dataset. The models we use are mainly pre-trained on ImageNet dataset. So maybe using models that train on MR dataset instead of ImageNet dataset may result in a better performance model.
Okay. Thank you for your answer. There is another question for Mr. Wilbert. If there is no other question, we will move to next presenter. But once again, we remind you to all presenter to turn on your camera during this session, please. Now we move to next presenter. Please welcome Mr. Abian Farel that will present a paper with title Comparative Analysis of Ensemble Techniques for Bone Fractures Detection from X-ray Image Using HOG Features. Okay, Mr. Abian, time is yours.
All right, thank you, Miss. First of all, can you see my screen that I'm sharing right now?
Yes, I can see.
All right. Okay, let me start. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. My name is Abian Farah Muzaki from Bina Nusantara University. On this occasion, I'm going to present my research paper titled The Comparative Analysis of Assembly Techniques for Bone Fracture Detection from X-ray Images Using HOG Features. Right, in today's presentation will consist of the following topics, starting from topic 1, which is the introduction, topic 2, the methodology, topic 3, the result, and lastly, topic 4, the conclusion and future works to end the presentation. Right, first of all, we will discuss the musculoskeletal conditions and how they affect people worldwide, and also how to address these problems. Musculoskeletal conditions, or MCs, encompasses 150 varying conditions and approximately affect 1.71 billion people worldwide, with fracture cases alone reaching 178 million cases, according to the World Health Organization. Bone fractures are among those conditions that can significantly impact individuals, families, societies, and healthcare systems, as they can lead to work absences, decrease in productivity, and a whole other host of life-limiting conditions. Despite medical advancements allowing patients that are affected to easily access radiographic imaging, slow diagnostic and misdiagnosis performed by physicians presents a bottleneck in the hopes of a robust MC diagnostic approach. limited expertise among physicians, informal readings from junior physicians, and even fatigue during late hours could lead to diagnostic discrepancies. Some approaches have been attempted to minimize overutilizations of radiographic imaging, such as the disbursements of X-ray in some cases, but due to large numbers of cases, simply reducing the usage of radiographic imaging for minor health cases might not be applicable. Instead, utilizing new technologies such as artificial intelligence and to an extent machine learning models could play a more impactful role. Machine learning models could play a role with some cases showing that artificial intelligence performs better than humans in various activities. Some previous studies shows the eligibility of AI and machine learning in this field. Previous studies stated that machine learning models could play a role in such endeavors, with some cases showing evidence that some models and algorithms perform as well or as better or even better, than humans in variety of activities, including data analytics and picture recognition. One study utilized assembly models to minimize variance and bias errors in machine learning models. By training multiple base learners and combining their predictions, these assembly models can achieve superior results. From an initial score of a single baseline model that is an 80% accuracy score, by utilizing the assembly model, this study accumulates a more higher accuracy score. Machine learning models have been shown to outperform human experts in several instances, especially when sophisticated methods like data augmentation and transfer learning are implemented. Okay, moving on to the dataset that was used in this study. This experiment uses 10,580 X-ray images from Rodriguez Kagel publication, which is divided into 3 datasets: the train, test, and validation datasets. The train dataset has the most amount of data, totaling up to 9,246 images, while the test dataset consists of the least amounts of data. Each dataset is then further divided into 2 classes, the first being the fractured class, indicating bone fractures, and the second, the not fractured class, indicating the absence of fractures. Next, data processing was implemented in order to prepare the data. Procedures such as data cleaning were utilized to address issues like duplicates, outliers, missing data, whereas data transformations was used to resize the X-ray images into a uniform size. Here, the proposed experiment is carried through and properly executed by implementing a few methodologies, starting by accessing the data through Google Colab, followed with data pre-processing. Here, data pre-processing, like previously mentioned, was implemented in order to prepare the data. Next, after successfully preparing the data, feature extractions are then put into play. The histogram of oriented gradients, commonly known as HOG, was utilized in this experiment due to its ability to extract essential features within an image. Every pixel in the image's small connected areas or cells adds to a histogram that shows the gradient directions. The HOG feature factors, which accurately depicts the image, is then created by combining these histograms that can be seen from the left figure below. Multiple machine learning models were tested, and 3 were chosen due to their high performance scores. First, the k-nearest neighbors with k equal to 1, 3, and 5, the decision tree model, and the random forest model. From the figure below, it shows that these models achieves a high score when evaluating using the evaluation metrics that were used in the study, with the first iterations of KNN model achieving the highest accuracy score of 99.03%. Okay, in order to address issues such as overfitting, generalization errors, and bias that comes with one singular model, this study utilizes assembly models that works by combining multiple baseline models into one singular framework, resulting in a more robust and powerful model that improves performance, hence its utilization in this experiment. There exists a few assembly methods, and in this experiment, uses the hard and soft voting assembly methods as well as the stacking meta assembly methods. The stacking assembly model works by creating a new model or meta model by combining data from several predictive models, whereas the voting this assembly method works by combining predictions from multiple models in order to improve accuracy using the wisdom of crowd concept. Okay, next up is the results of these experiments. First of all, by utilizing Google Colab, this experiment is carried out by evaluating assembly models and their performance in detecting bone fractures from X-ray images. The best performing machine learning models were chosen as a baseline model for the assembly models, voting and stacking, with the first iterations of k-nearest neighbors achieving an accuracy score of 99.03%. The three implemented assembly models all achieve a higher accuracy score that can be seen in the table below compared to the previous single baseline models. These highest as can be seen in this table, the highest achieving accuracy score is achieved by the stacking assembly models with a score of 99.30% in accuracy. All right, last up is the conclusions and the future works for this study. First, the experiment tested 3 baseline machine learning models and assembly models with the k-nearest neighbors and the other machine learning models achieving the highest accuracy scores. Stacking and hard-soft voting assembly models were chosen with the stacking model achieving the highest accuracy score of 99.30%. These results provides a foundation for developing a reliable diagnostic tool for medical imaging analysis, especially in resource-constrained settings. Future studies could expand the dataset so that it could include a wider range of MCs with a patient's X-ray image. This could address the complex real-world clinical settings where data is often diverse and comes with many different imperfections such as noise, artifacts, or difference in image size. Further testing and modification for baseline models that best suit real-world clinical settings could also be provided for a more robust baseline model. Additionally, when all of these issues are addressed, utilization and implementation of edge device deployment and real-time processing capabilities could open the door to a more useful application in healthcare situations. All right, that's it from my presentation. Thank you for listening. If there's any shortcomings, I sincerely apologize.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Abian, for the presentation. We will now open floor for question. If you have a question, please use a raise hand feature in Zoom. Kindly state your name and affiliation before asking your question. Okay, Mr. Abian, I have a question for you. What were the advantage of using stacking and voting example models over the individual machine learning models for your experiment?
Oh, I see. In this study, it is decided that we use the assembly models compared with singular baseline machine learning models because we figure out that while the baseline models achieves a high accuracy score, it's still what is it called? It still has the chance of like overfitting and bias. So in order to circumvent that, we use assembly models not only to higher the percentage rate, but also to prevent, like I said, data overfitting or bias that comes with singular machine learning models. I think that's my answer to the question.
Okay, thank you for your question, Mr. Abian. Since there is no other question for other participant, we can close your session and we move to other session.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we will move to the last presentation from Ms. Fatima Sulaiman that will present about a novel computer vision classifier identifying Alzheimer's stage from MRI scans. Ms. Fatima Sulaiman, time is yours.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay. So this is our paper. A novel computer vision classifier identifying Alzheimer's stages from MRI scans. We plan to discuss 1. Abstract and introduction, 2. Results, 3. Methodology, and 4. Conclusion and Q&A. This is our abstract. Our project was about Alzheimer's, which is a fatal neurodegenerative disease whose symptoms appear with aging and worsen over time. Currently, over 55 million people worldwide suffer from Alzheimer's and dementia, 60% of whom reside in low-income countries or developing countries. Machine learning technology diagnosing Alzheimer's has the potential to allow earlier diagnosis and outreach to marginalized and low-income communities. Our study explores a deep learning classification algorithm to identify Alzheimer's based on MRI scans. Using a balanced dataset, our classification algorithm was able to sort patients with no impairment, very mild impairment, and lastly, moderate impairment, with an accuracy of 96%. Unlike other contemporary machine learning classifications for Alzheimer's, our study uses the more definitive method of MRI scans as opposed to patient statistics, and detects different levels of disease progression, allowing for stage-based treatment. Here's our introduction. Alzheimer's disease is the most common cause of dementia, affecting many older adults, and with recent research predicting about 415 million people worldwide on the disease continuum. It is associated with memory malfunctioning, personality changes, and impaired logical reasoning. The loss of consciousness and inability to perform daily tasks in later stages of the disease puts psychological and financial stress on not only patients, but also a majority of the caregivers. Alzheimer's is also demanding in the economy, with the total cost for healthcare, long-term care, and hospital services for age 65 plus dementia patients in the United States alone in 2024 estimated at $360 billion. The neurodegeneration behind Alzheimer's is caused by tau plaques and hyperphosphorylated neurofibrillary tangles, the formation of which can precede the actual detection of symptoms by decades. Recent research shows 2 distinct phases of Alzheimer's, a slow, silent, early phase followed by a late phase of rapid, widespread neuronal damage and appearing and worsening symptoms. Novel machine learning technology has also been utilized in brain mapping to explore in-depth key regions of the brain affected by Alzheimer's. The software pipeline NeuroTrail has used active learning and supercomputing to quantify cell density in specific areas of an Alzheimer's-affected prefrontal cortex. Similarly, STACY is a novel form of spatial analysis combining cell imaging, gene expression, and cell mapping. It has been used to trace patterns identifying Alzheimer's in specific tissue samples. This is our methodology. The data used in our research consists of over 11,000 brain MRI scans, tagged with labels describing the Alzheimer's progression, as determined by the MRI with 4 categories as previously mentioned: no impairment, very mild impairment, and moderate impairment. Since the original dataset was imbalanced across the 4 categories, WGAN's GP were applied to balance the dataset. The data was pre-processed by converting the images to PyTorch tensors and then resizing the images to 64 by 64 pixels. Our model architecture contained a feature extractor of a custom sequential model. The first layer was a convolutional layer, followed by an activation function to introduce nonlinearity. We used exponential linear unit, or ELU, because unlike the ReLU, the ELU has negative values that can nudge the mean unit activations towards 0, and this speeds up the learning. After this, we added a max pooling layer to reduce the spatial dimensions. After an additional convolutional layer, activation function layer, and max pooling layer, we then flattened the output to feed into the fully connected layer. We used the cross entropy loss function, as is commonly used for multi-class classification problems. In addition, we also used the Atom optimizer with a learning rate of 0.001. Here are our results. The metrics we chose to measure were recall, precision, and accuracy. To ensure we averaged across all classes equally, we macro-averaged the metrics. Recall measures the ability of the model to find all relevant instances or true positives. Precision measures the ability of the model to identify only the relevant instances, which would be the true positives among all predicted positives. Accuracy measures the overall correctness of the model's predictions. After testing with variable epochs, it was found that our model was able to achieve an accuracy of at least 90% after only 18 epochs. At 30 epochs, a testing accuracy of around 93.3% was achieved, as you can see. Our graphs remain fairly consistent, apart from a minor decrease in accuracy between 14 and 15 epochs. The rate of increase slowed as the number of epochs increased. Considering the time and memory constraints of the machine learning model, a lower number of epochs, such as 30, might be preferable to 100 because of the limited improvement in accuracy as they went on. Lastly, we have our conclusion. Our model is able to predict the stage of Alzheimer's from a patient's MRI brain scan with high accuracy. For future works, we hope to explore the ratio of synthetic to authentic data and how that affects the model's predictions and accuracy. Further applications of the research may include that MRI determination is a more definitive method to detect Alzheimer's, as brain scans can more tangibly show the neurodegeneration. Furthermore, classification into specific stages can provide a track to earlier and more specific treatment, as it usually precedes the actual showing up of symptoms. The machine learning approach is particularly useful to overcrowded hospitals where doctors may be busy. Classification can speed treatment and recovery. And lastly, classification can be used for research and analysis about Alzheimer's causes and demographics. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Fatima, for the presentation. We will now open the floor for questions. If you have a question for Ms. Fatima, please use the raise hand feature in Zoom. Can you state your name and affiliation before asking your question? Okay, since there is no question for other participants, I will ask you a questions. A simple question. What is the challenge that you face while you conducting your research?
One challenge that we faced was about how the dataset was originally imbalanced, and then we had to use synthetic data to add to the dataset before we were able to make it balanced and then use it.
Okay, thank you for your answer, Ms. Fatima. Okay, there is other question. Okay, I think there is no more questions. Thank you, Ms. Fatima. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the panel session. On behalf of ECDS 2025, I would like to thank all our presenters for their exceptional contribution and insight. I would also like to extend my gratitude to all participants for their engagement and thought-provoking questions. We hope this session has been both informative and inspiring for you all. Please be reminded that the next session will begin at 3 maybe. We invite you to stay and continue exploring the valuable ideas and discussion present throughout the conference. Thanks again for your present and all the informative and insightful information, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.